new segment. This is thoughts from my car. Yes, that is my car. It is not a Hemi. I'm a family dude, so I don't have any need for a Hemi. Plus, I'm black and I'm driving a pretty fast car, and I don't want the cops to fuck with me. That's what they do around these parts. Anyway, I drive a lot for my job, and or I was driving a lot for my previous job, and it would be anywhere from 2 hours to 5 hours of my 8-hour day, sometimes 6 if the situation called for it. And I would be meeting with organizations all over Columbus and all over Ohio in general. So on my way from place to place, sometimes, random ideas pop up, or, I'm watching YouTube videos or listening to them rather as I'm driving. Or, my brother would call me and bring up some, cool situation or some not so cool, happening in the public, consciousness or in the mainstream or whatever in our geek world. And I would have something to say about it. And, we start talking, and then I would record my thoughts afterwards, hopefully to use in a video. But, I was going to use these as notes for those videos. And then I thought, why don't I just upload the raw response to whatever it is that's going on? Now, I'm going to warn you, some of these are really harsh because, you're already annoyed because you're at work, and then stupid shit happens on top of it, in the media, various parts of the media, or in gaming, or in whatever. And sometimes I just straight let them have it, I'm putting this up online so that, you guys could hear what I think about subjects that we didn't cover in, like, Off Our Brains and all those different shows that we already have. If you dig it, I have more in the chamber, and I will fire. And I have a lot more in the chamber, but right now I got about like 5 of them, because I have to download them from my phone. So let me know, if the comments and the views are saying as such, then I will continue with this. So anyway, here we go. These are always going to be things that I am pretty passionate about, because it's the only reason why I'm doing this. So anyway, here we go. I've spoken enough. Oh, I'm sorry. Before I started, this video or this particular segment was done, this particular recording was done, I want to say February of last year. That's how long ago I started recording these things, just to see what would happen. So anyway, without further ado, here we go. What's up, my ninjas? I am STRYDENT, and today I'm going to break it down. I repeat, I'm going to break it down. So I was watching Movie News with John Campea. I like to watch that sometimes, AMC Movie News. I like to watch that sometimes when I am getting ready for work. And excuse me if you hear my GPS in the background. I drive a lot for work, so I'm using my GPS right now. I'm a little far off the beaten path, so to speak. But so he, on AMC Movie News, essentially what they do is fans send in their or email questions, or use their chat board, and ask questions about upcoming movies, and John does his best to answer it in, according to his logic and his opinion, and some actual movie logic. He does have some kind of I won't want to say marketing, but some kind of you can tell he has a background in production, at least, or he understands the movie production process and how funds kind of move around, so he knows, a movie does this much money because blah, 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 blah. Kind of like when you hear me talk. A lot of people blame directors for bad movies, and most of the time that's the writer's fault. It's not the director. So, long story short, one of the questions was, will we ever see a Shazam movie? And I'm saying to myself, wow, that's actually a nice question. It would make sense, you know what I'm saying? Because then DC would actually have their kind of Thor type character, you know what I'm saying? And that would actually be interesting. But it's a good question, where's Shazam? DC has a lot of characters that actually character for character, they have people to match every single person that Marvel has put out. And when I say Marvel, I'm talking about Marvel Studios, not Disney owned. I'm sorry, not Disney, not Fox, not Sony, but Marvel Studios. So anyway, John goes on to explain this concept of the way that pretty much studios have been thinking thus far, and it hasn't been beneficial. You know, they think the studios think in a way that is best for the entire of their film universes. So if they fuck up one guy, they're gonna fuck them all up. And to me, that's just stupid. That's one of the worst things you could do with your characters. But you know, no matter how much we see it, they just keep doing it as if it works. So he points out that the DC cinematic universe so far, the mess that it is based on logic and reality and science. And every single set of powers that we've seen, which is just Superman essentially, can be explained in reality, you know, with science. And that's the way that the whole universe, the whole DC cinematic universe, should be handled. Everything should be scientific or grounded. He said scientifically groundable. Now, that's as far as I'm going to go with all this information. I mean, he did say this is his opinion. He did say he didn't know if it's right, but that this is what he thinks. I'm going to say that's complete bullshit. It's short-sighted thinking. It's poor business acumen, or maybe it's good business acumen meeting a lack of, or meeting imagination and then slamming into a brick wall, because some of these businessmen, the majority of these businessmen, don't have the kind of imagination necessary to make these things work, and the box office has proven this time and time again. So, first off, if you're going to make a universe that is all scientifically grounded or groundable, why the fuck would you be making superhero films? Like, why would you use existing superheroes? Why would you even think of a stable of superheroes with at least half, you know, or let's say at least 25%, you know, magically, related? You know, of the big seven, you've got like what? Let's see. Nth Metal has scientific it's biological properties. It's an element. You know what I'm saying? But Shazam is usually in the Justice League. Zatanna is usually in there. I mean, there's a big handful of members of the Justice League that use magic, and that's their power, and it can't be explained, and the audience has to understand this. Why would you even dip into that pool if you're not going to explain, or you're not going to entertain all the elements that these characters bring to bear? Like, that doesn't make any sense, you know what I mean? If I am into gymnastics and I want to go up against gymnastics, masters or whatever, why would I jump into mixed martial arts? It's two different pools, you know what I'm saying? Like, if I like real life, why would I be making comic book movies? You know, why would I base all my movies off comic book characters? You know, and then take away all the fantastical elements that made them interesting in the first fucking place. Like, that doesn't make sense. So it's kind of like when I went back and I was explaining why, you remember years ago, the argument was, could you have Superman in the same universe, the film universe, cinematic universe, as Batman, since Batman, especially Nolan's universe. This was expressly the conversation, you know, or the argument. Nolan's universe cannot allow for Batman and Superman to exist in it at the same time. And I called bullshit on that, because guess what? Before Nolan touched Batman and Superman, they existed in the same universe, and they've been in the same fucking universe for 70 plus years. If old Jewish guys back in the day, before all this studio involvement and all this like mass hysteria surrounding superhero films caught on, if they could make it work and make us believe it, make adults and kids alike believe that these characters could exist in the same world, then they need to exist in the same world, because that's how they were intended. Now, the mess that we have is this. Marvel, they explain things in a certain way, and they try to be safe by like having Thor say that, we have
the same magic and science are the same in our universe. You know what I mean? Because you have to learn how to cast spells. So there is a science or a method to the madness. It's not just let's do. It's not just like an always an innate thing. But then you have things like the ether, which is clearly magical. And they don't explain it to you in a scientific kind of way. Um, you have characters like Thanos. He's a Titan, but are you going to say Titans are aliens that come from this planet that blah blah blah, and the Infinity Gauntlet just magically can control reality? It can just scientifically control reality because that's what it does. No, they're just not going to go into details about that specific element of the Infinity Gauntlet. That specific gem. The reason why you would do such a thing is because you need some magic to make these properties feel a little bit more epic. When we watch Lord of the Rings, we don't hear a scientific explanation for what Gandalf can do. He just does it because he's a fucking wizard. Magic exists in fantastical stories, in epic stories, in fiction. You know what I mean? It's fake. You know? One thing that I'm so sick of with today's moviegoers and today's movie makers is that they've spent so much time trying to kill all of the fantasy and all the fantastical elements that made things awesome. I mean, we have to sit here and believe that Tony Stark could fly around in this big giant suit of armor, get knocked around by the Hulk, by aliens, by all kinds of shit, and on the inside he's not Jello. We just believe it. Because hey, it's science, it makes sense. You know what I mean? We just believe that asshole. I enjoyed Iron Man. Don't get me wrong, but you have to admit he is an asshole. That's kind of the point, and I can tell that Robert Downey Jr. he zeroed in on that and said, hey, I'm just gonna play that up sometimes. He's an asshole, and we're supposed to believe that this asshole is the gel that holds the Marvel Cinematic Universe together. Like the Marvel Universe we watch on screen is held together by Tony Stark. Are you fucking kidding me? We watch him one up Captain America on a regular basis because what? Science? Are you fucking serious? That's not the way it works. Cap is supposed to be the greatest tactical mind in the Marvel Universe. He's supposed to be the shit when it comes to tactics. He's creative. It's not tactics like Batman tactics. It's more so tactics in the sense that this man is experienced and he knows how to think on the fly to make the best of even the worst of situations, But we don't see that in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Instead, you see glimpses of it, and then you see Tony Stark always be like, hey, science can fix this. And that's not cool, because that's not the way it works, It would be nice sometimes if that was how it worked, but it just isn't. And it's tiring to see them do that with everything. I mean, they're going to get Hank Pym out the way so they can make Tony Stark build Ultron or have something to do with the creation of Ultron. Why does Tony Stark have to be in the center of every fucking thing? You know what I'm saying? He's already self-centered. He's the rich guy. Why the fuck do you have to give everything to him? These are the same people that are going to tell you the freaking various cinematic universes need science because there is no such thing as magic. Motherfucker, there's no such thing as superheroes. You know what I mean? Like, where is the logic in this shit? Why are you telling audiences not to dream, not to use their imagination, not to allow for, the impossible so they can be entertained? That's why we go to fucking movies, to see the impossible, to see something outside of our daily lives. I mean, it's just the way it works. Why are we still, why is this a thing? Why is this an issue? It's frustrating to me. I don't see how they're going to say, oh no, it doesn't work. And then they try to use examples of films that have already been released that were all magic in nature and shit. And they want to say, oh, the sales for those movies were down. No, Lord of the Rings was one of the highest grossing films of all time. That trilogy, probably both trilogies, when you think about it, will be up there. I mean, I know the hype has died down since the first Lord of the Rings, but they're up there as far as, making money. Um, No one's changing the formula for Lord of the Rings because the magic shit is part of the story, you know? Granted, there's all these other things that they should add, you know? How about some black dwarves? You know what I'm saying? Or some black or some Asian or some just different shades of the people of fucking Middle Earth, you know, instead of the all the evil people happen to be brown skinned and they come from across the sea. Like Tolkien didn't know any better. We know better. We should be able to change that. You know what I'm saying? Give us some fucking diversity in there, because I'm getting so tired of that bullshit. You know, and you know there are black people that are British. You know, brown people. I shouldn't say black anymore. I'm gonna try and get that out of my vocabulary because we're all brown. Even the most purple looking motherfucker is actually brown. He's a dark brown. Anyway, you've got people, you know, actors like Idris Elba, who is he's a Brit. I mean, obviously he's of African descent, but he's a Brit. You've got Chiwetel Ejiofor. That's another one. He grew up he's got an English background, even though he is African. You know what I'm saying? That'd be my pick for the Black Panther right there. But all these people, you know, they have their accents and everything, and they can act just as well as these other guys that you have in the films. Why not just mix it up? That's the only thing you need to change, in my opinion. You need to change. I mean, I know fanboys, closet racist fanboys will bitch and moan, but you know, the rest of us will be like, yeah, that actually looks good. That makes things better. Anyway, the point of the matter is, stop putting everything in fucking boxes. So far, we've been trained to believe that, you know, superheroes are just white guys and girls. Oh, and Asian people who know martial arts. There's always got to be martial arts involved when there's Asian folks. They can't just be, you know, smart or, you know, an expert at something. It's got to be martial arts. It's got to be. Now, it's fucked up because the way I design characters, and this came from the X-Men, right? This came from my love hate with how they handle the X-Men. So I love the X-Men. The 90s X-Men. It's probably my favorite book of my youth, my teen book. Favorite teen book of my youth. And I say it like I'm really old. I'm just about to be 35. It's not even that long ago, but when I was a kid, X-Men was the shit. That was my favorite team, and it made sense. But the thing that never made sense to me is that the mutants did they did everything with their mutant power. So like, if you took Cyclops' visor away, he'd be like, oh my god, I can't see, my eyes, oh my god, and then he would get his ass whooped. Or, you know, if Gambit couldn't throw his freaking cards and charge things, he'd be severely handicapped, essentially, and then he'd just get beat up. So I always, when I played with my X-Men figures, I used to always be like, when they're in the danger room, they're learning martial arts, as well as, you know, strategy and tactics to avoid certain situations or to survive certain situations. It would just make sense. So my brother and my best friend and I would always come up with these situations like, you know, you're in the Savage Land, the Blackbird crashed, something in the atmosphere or in the area is creating a field within which you cannot use your mutant powers. What do you do? And the X-Men go into G.I. Joe mode, essentially. They start, you know, they're pacing themselves as they run from, you know, point A to point B. They go looking for supplies. They want to set up some kind of beacon so that, you know, a rescue mission or a rescue team could actually come get them, because, you know, you had your blue team and your gold team, you know. So if blue team goes down, then you need to somehow get a message to gold team that they need to pick you guys up. This is your location. These are the hostiles in the area. These are the things you need to be aware of before you come in to get us. We will do our best to neutralize any type of opposition in the area, just so that you can actually make this extraction possible, you know? So like Cyclops would be at the forefront, you know? He had all them pockets on his belt and on his bandolier. It just would make sense. So that was the way I handled that, and that's the way I saw it, even back then. And this is when I was like This is when Toy Biz's first and second sets of X-Men figures came out. So, in my mind, that's the way it should have always been. When I went back and I did those sketches, because my friend Chris and I were working on, what was it called? Oh man, Legacy of the Atom, which, who knows, we might still have to make that. When we were working on Legacy of the Atom, that was the way I designed everybody. I designed them with, military tactics in mind. My Professor X even had ties to, some military characters, because like our Cyclops, he was an ex-SEAL, and his powers went off in combat, and he killed his team, and he was discharged on the hush because of this. So it was one of those things where I wanted there to be a military center. I even gave Cyclops a knife so that he doesn't have to use his powers. Actually, my Cyclops doesn't enjoy using his powers as much. So oftentimes he would actually, take out bad guys with his knife or with his martial arts ability or something. So the point being, everybody in the team has training, because Cyclops wouldn't want to go into battle with soldiers that don't have any skills, and they'll get each other killed. That's never the point, and that's never the way that you want to conduct, an op. You just don't want to do things like that. You know what I'm saying? So that was the way that I saw the X-Men to be: Asian, Hispanic, white, brown, whatever, tan, purple, blue skinned, whatever the case may be, you're all going to be trained, because you all need to be able to defend yourselves. That's just how I felt, But it seems that Hollywood and even the comics have a different idea. You just can't be Asian and not know martial arts, That's always a prerequisite for the Asian characters, especially if they're going to be in the forefront. And that's not fair, you know what I'm saying? All these stupid things, from the racism to your classism with female characters, always have to have high heels on their boots. The fuck? They gotta be tactical too. Give them boots. That's not, if they were to go out and buy gear right now, they don't make tactical boots with high heels, because it's just impractical. It doesn't make sense. Yet you go in any comic book store, look at any comic that has a female character on it, and if they're all using guns and shit, and this is from the Black Widow all the way down, if all the men are using guns and got bulletproof vests and shit, she's gonna have her the zipper open all the way down to her fucking belly button, so you can see her big ass boobs popping out, and she's gonna have high heels, and her ass is gonna be sticking out, and she's gonna have the least amount of gear compared to everyone else. Go ahead and check it out. It's the way it works. These are the same motherfuckers who now, when they make movies of their own properties, they want to say, oh, well, the audience won't understand that there's magic in this world. That's too much for the audience to understand. This is the audience that is made up of a majority that is fairly religious, anti-gay and all that kind of shit, because supposedly the Bible said that, God he made everyone except for the gay folks. These are the same people. Those same people are the same people that you're trying to say, oh yeah, they believe in God, but they can't believe in magic. Because somewhere in the Bible it says, if there's magic, it's evil. Magic is evil. Even God's magic, Jesus turning water into wine, and, turning what was it, potatoes into bread, or rocks into bread, or whatever. All that shit is evil. So, it's magic. But Jesus could do it. So, and that's a whole nother argument. I'm not trying to start that argument. But what I'm saying is, these are the people that make up the public that does not believe in, that the characters are superheroes and shit, should be able to do magical things, And I think that's bullshit. You motherfuckers, I'm sorry for the echo. I'm doing all kinds of stuff, but you motherfuckers are the reason why the industry is so jacked up right now. Is because you guys, you play both sides of the fence, always. You're always straddling the fence, I guess. You believe one thing, but you can't believe another thing. You like this thing. We can watch Disney movies where there's magic all over the fucking place, but it's a cartoon, so it's okay. Then we watch our comic book movies, and then now you want to dictate to us that it doesn't make sense for, you know, Superman and Batman. Two fucking comic book characters that come from comics to be in a movie together, because that just doesn't make sense. How could anyone do such a thing? It doesn't make any fucking sense. Like, what the fuck? What planet? What hole did you fucking crawl out of that that logic makes sense even partially? It just doesn't make sense, you know? It's bad logic, lack of thought process. It doesn't make sense, and it just doesn't do you like comics, you know what I'm saying? And if you like comics, you should like seeing these characters together, because guess what? They're often paired together. So, I mean, trying to tell us all these reasons why they should not be paired together so you can sound cool or in the know is just fucking stupid, because you like comics. You know what I'm saying? You're not the new mainstream who likes comic book movies. You grew up with comics. Not just comic book movies, but comics, the actual things you can read. You know what I'm saying? Like, so this is not new material for you, whereas for everyone else, it's new material. You get where I'm coming from? And it's extremely frustrating to have these conversations with people when it should be like a no-brainer. You like comic books. Here you have a comic book movie. The things that go in comics should be in this new genre of film. Because if it was any other genre of film, we wouldn't see these things. You know what I'm saying? Like, the Bourne movies won't have flying men. Bulletproof flying men that can shoot lasers out of their eyes. No, you'll never see that in a fucking Tom Clancy or Robert Ludlum, or that doesn't go in that genre, but it goes in comics because that's the genre, right? I'm not speaking a fucking different language. I'm just telling you guys the honest to goodness truth without all this BS double standard shit that everybody keeps on spewing. These executives have been fucking up the comic book industry or the films, and then they come up with the most retarded logic for it. Excuse my use of the word retarded, but it is retarded. It's as if their brains don't work the way that everyone else's brains do. And I don't like that. I don't fucking like it. It bothers me because it's like, then don't make those kind of movies. Go back to making movies that don't sell. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a reason why everybody's making superhero films, because they fucking make money. Because guess what? It's the newest genre we've had in what, 30 or 40 years? It's the latest genre. I mean, that's why every studio is trying to make a fucking superhero film. People are interested in seeing this because it's the only new thing. I mean, think about it. Every other film, every other type of film that you see is always a remake. In the last 10, 15 years, we've had nothing but remakes. Nothing. All remakes, all based on the original story by. It's all based on something that existed beforehand. And in most cases, it's a movie or TV show that existed, a couple years prior. That's how it always is. And then along come the superhero films, which are also based on books, obviously. They're based on comics, which is a medium that people tend not to respect in this country. And all of a sudden, everybody's trying to say what can and can't go. Motherfucker, the years back when Jack Kirby and Stan Lee and all those, awesome artists and writer teams were making all this shit amazing for us, that's what you owe your job to. So either you're going to honor, I mean, I know there's a business side to it, but be aware of the genre, honor it, utilize the strengths of the genre, make your money, and call it a day instead of trying to reinvent the fucking wheel. You know what I'm saying? I think that what I'm telling you right now, what I'm saying, makes the utmost amount of sense. I think those of you who you grew up reading comics and you grew up watching films like I did, you know that this makes sense. It doesn't make sense to try and limit the genre because you're trying to say that the audience whom you're trying to make these movies for, which is already a flaw because you shouldn't be trying to make the movie for any audience other than people who are going to go and check out the movie. You know what I'm saying? So far, every time they've tried to make one of these movies so that they can please everybody, then they fail. Look at the Amazing Spider-Man. It was not that great. They they wanted to make sequels, so they just made sequels. But the Amazing Spider-Man was not a good movie. And now we got a sequel on the way that looks like a much better movie because it looks more like. Go ahead and say it. I can hear you guys from my home here in Cebus, Ohio. Go ahead and say it. It's more like the comics. It looks more like the comics. I'm not saying that their story is the comics, but it looks more like it. You see Spider-Man swinging more. You see lots of bad guys doing shit. Spider-Man is talking, his usual shit. It takes place in New York. The fans love him. The whole night. It feels more like the universe that we've been used to before Doc Ock snatched his body. And that's a whole nother story for a whole nother reviewer or internet personality. I'm not doing it. I'm not touching that shit. Um, but you feel where I'm coming from. They don't know. So the point, and I'm gonna close this out, is if DC was smart, if Warner Brothers was smart, they would have all their magic based characters make some kind of appearance in their cinematic universe. Magic wouldn't be a big deal. It would just be the way it is in the DC cinematic universe because Marvel has its own stuff. DC needs to have its own stuff. Both of them have magic. Both of them have gods and heroes of the old world. They've got shit. Marvel has Greek and Norse heroes, whereas DC, I think, mostly has or only has the Greek ones, with the exception of Hercules, because Marvel snatched that up. Um, but the point of the matter is, there's room for that stuff in comics. That's one of the places where those kind of things belong. Comics are our modern myth, and these studios keep missing that. Modern myth means that what happens in our real world, it's no one gives a shit because in the comic book world, in the world of this kind of fantasy, anything can happen. And that's the whole point. That's why we love it so much. That's why we've been reading. Many of us have been reading since we were kids because anything is fucking possible. You understand? Like, we're not confined or what's the word I'm looking for? We're not held back, restrained, or limited to everyday occurrences because in the comic book world, aliens trying to invade New York is an everyday occurrence. You know what I'm saying? Like or like it's a common occurrence, I should say. Not an everyday, but it's common. It's common enough that there are, in our fantasy, our comics, our manga, whatever, you have cities that have preparations for invasions or giant robot battles, or you have heroes that hang out waiting for an alien invasion because that's what they do because it's that common. You know what I mean? You have heroes that have made, pacts with, I don't know, old forces, magical forces. Shit, you got heroes that investigate that shit. We had Hellboy. Hellboy made money. Hellboy made a decent amount of money. So for people to say, the studios to say, no, we can't have magic in, comic book world, it just, they're idiots. They're fucking idiots. So if they're smart, they will use Shazam, and they'll use the new 52 look because they like the new 52 stuff, and I understand. So use a semi new 52 look, but give him the original classic Billy Batson attitude and everything else, because if you don't, you're gonna fail. It's just that simple. If you don't, it's just all gonna fucking fail because the new Billy Batson is an asshole, and without a lot of work and without someone else besides Jeff Johns writing him, he's just gonna suck. So yeah, they better do the damn thing. So anyway, I'm Strident. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. Fantasy is fantasy. People need to stop trying so hard to rewrite the damn book and just take your cues from the books that your shit is based on. Take your cues from the logic of the universe that you're working with. Comic books, that's what you're working with. So that's where you take your inspiration and your logic. No excuses, just do it. Um, Stop saying things can't be possible in the realm of fantasy. It's fucking fantasy. I mean, how is that difficult to understand? It's fantasy, it's fake. Anything is fucking possible. And yeah, that's a wrap for me. So, you guys have been great. I'll catch you on the next video. Peace outside.